what's up, y'all? Corey Congilio here, showing you a lick today inspired by one of my guitar heroes, Keith Richards. I love how Keith just is a great songwriter and a simplistic guitar player. Killer rhythm player, and he does something that a lot of us don't do these days. Plug straight into an amplifier. He used room sound and microphones, and we're going to talk about how to achieve the tone that I'm getting through this 2-rock and the aux box here today. But we're going to talk about that lick I played in the beginning of this video and how we can play major and minor pentatonics over a 1-chord vamp. It's going to be really cool. All right, let's take a look at this Keith Richards inspired major and minor pentatonic lick. I played this lick at the beginning of my improvising over this 1-chord vamp that sounds very much like Honky Tonk Woman, because you're gonna get in a situation where you play that kind of idea, and either sound will work. So what I heard Keith do, and then I added my own thing to it, was he would do this thing. And that comes right out of this G major pentatonic. So you're going to bend on the D note here. That's going to be the 15th fret, whole step up. And then you're going to grab that G note with your pinky there and release it to the B on the 2nd string. Now the second half resolves it, bending from the A to the B note. So you're going to bend from this A note here on the 14th fret, 3rd string, hold it, add the D note there on the 2nd string. Then we're going to go to the minor pentatonic section. So this is what I would consider more of the major idea, because it's really functioning out of that major pentatonic scale. And I have so many students, like I said in the beginning, that really struggle with this because their hands are used to going, because we know that this is not only G major pentatonic, but it's also E minor pentatonic. Right? So, to recap that lick, here's our G to G, first of all. We should really know that scale. Okay? Then we're going to bend from the D note here to the E note. And it's like rock country, right? Well, what happened was there was a period where Keith Richards was really into country music, and I think he probably is and always will be, hanging with Graham Parsons and all those cats that were really influencing him, and the Stones. And I think that really got into his playing. And what I do sometimes is really make those notes sort of have sharp beginnings and ends. So I'll play that high G note and I'll stop it with my pick. And it kind of has a chicken picking sound to it, but I didn't use my fingers. I didn't go. Yeah, there it is. So that will lick one more time. Here we go. Now we're going to go to a minor pentatonic idea out of what I would call minor pentatonic pattern number 4 in the key of G. We're going to play this double stop right here where we're using the D on the 10th fret and the B flat there on the 2nd string, 11th fret. Walk the scale right down from that point. One more time. And what I love to do is add just a little bit of a push, a little bit of a bend there. Gives it some attitude. Now what's fun is I'm going to do a little hammer on from this B flat to the B and add my 2nd string G note there, and I'm going to add it with my 1st finger and let it ring. Minor, Yeah. So any number of those ideas. You can play major, major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, back to minor pentatonic. It all works really well over that kind of chord change. And I tried to do that in my improvised solo there in the beginning, so you really had an idea of that. Okay, one more time. Here's that lick. Ready? Here we go. And once more for good measure. All right, so as you know, I always like to talk about the gear I'm using. I try to use something a little bit different that really works for the track or the lick or whatever I'm teaching or talking about. And you know, usually I'll talk about the amp and the guitar and of course pedals. But I thought this time I would just go straight into the amp. So I'm using my little new Two-Rock Studio Signature amplifier. It's 35 watts. 6L6. It's really based on sort of their classic signature reverb, where there's not only sort of Fender blackface type tones, but there's traditional what they would consider Two-Rock tones. And there's even sort of a gain stage in here as well that really gives you like a blackface on steroids sort of sound. You know, the blackface Fender sound is really hard to beat, you know, when it comes to a deluxe or a Princeton or a super reverb, you name it. All those circuits are very similar. They take pedals really well and they sound great turned up. And what you'll see here is that I have the gain really cranked. It's about, let's say 3 o'clock, pushing 3 o'clock. It's a section of 3 switches here for a bright, a mid boost, and this deep control. And the deep control really kind of changes the point of the mid range. So it's kind of hard to describe without a big, loud, clean tone to demonstrate. I'll do a video on this later in depth. I put a little piece of felt over this light because if I don't, it flashes like that. It's a weird thing what the lens picks up. I don't get it. Anyway, I have the treble turned down, the mid's up, bass is just almost at 12 o'clock. I don't really have the reverb going on because I'm going to use that in a different way. And the master is about 2 o'clock. Now, I'm going into my bottom universal audio aux right here into Pro Tools. And what I'm doing there is I'm using that for my cabinet simulation. And what you'll see pop up here is a screenshot of the cabinet and microphone setting that I'm using. Now what I did was I went and I looked at some of the factory presets in aux because I knew there was some Keith Richards-esque type stuff, really small wattage speakers, room sound, ribbon microphones, and the whole idea here is that I'm trying to get close to that sound with just an amp, speaker, microphones that of course are modeled, room sound, reverb, and delay. So on the setting there was actually a plate reverb dialed in, and I added some slap echo. And one of the microphones you're going to see is muted, and you're just going to hear the ribbon 160 style microphone. And I have the volume turned down here about halfway on my guitar, just like they would have maybe done it in the 60s. And I can turn it up. So it's got a lot of snarl and growl. It's really aggressive, and it's just the amplifier. I'm pushing those 6L6s and the 12AXs really hard to kind of get what we would maybe consider a true amplifier classic rock tone. So getting a great tone from the amplifier by plugging straight in is really something that everyone was doing before pedals. And they were also doing it with room mics and speakers and microphones on the cabinet. So I really tried to replicate that as best I could for this video. Of course, I'll get back to pedals. I'm a huge pedal fan. It's really fun to really manipulate your tone through one single amplifier. But I just had to plug into this little guy, see what it had, use the aux in conjunction with it, and really try to get a tone that was a throwback really to one of my favorite guitar players, Keith Richards.